Hey guys, so today I wanted to talk about private versus public schools and just give you some ideas of things that you can think about as you decide whether or not to put your child into a private versus public school. Um, a disclaimer, my experiences and my knowledge is limited to my area. And I live in the South. I live in an area where we don't have a lot of choices. And there's a lot of mixed feelings when it comes to the types of schools there are, just because of the environment that we live in. There's a lot of specialty private schools here. And when I get to that, I'll explain a little bit further. And so anyway, let's start off with private schools. So not all private schools are created equal. You have some that are like the one that I worked at. It was a special school that was geared towards exceptional kids with exceptionalities, ADHD, autism, dyslexia, cerebral palsy, whatever, wheelchair bound, preemie, seizures, disorders, all these different things. And so they were just kids that in the public school setting, they just didn't thrive. And so this school offered them an environment where they could thrive, and they were accepted, and they did great. And so that's the kind of private school that I taught at. But not all private schools are created equal. In the area that I lived at before, there was a couple of private schools where the tuition was extremely high, and it was done intentionally that way to keep certain people out. Or it was, the environment there was really more for to kind of create a place where people with certain, status in society can have their child go there. I'm trying to be polite in the way that I describe that. And then you've got so many Christian private schools. So you have schools that are affiliated with certain churches. And so there's those kinds of private schools where the parent just wants their child to have religion, and even as a class, and which is awesome, that there's that option for the parents. And so that's, a wide range of private schools that are offered. And one of the things I want to do is talk about the pros and the cons, right? So obviously the pros of private schooling is that you can cater it to your child. You can find one that meets your child's needs. And typically they're going to have a lower teacher to student ratio. Typically private schools are going to have more money that they can tap into for, maybe field trips or extracurricular activities or different things like that, learning opportunities, right? And so private schools in that sense, have an advantage. Now, one of the disadvantages is that because it is a private school, they may not even accept your child. They have that option, right? And they may have a certain idea of what the type of students that they want to attend there. And so if your child doesn't meet that mold, doesn't fit that mold, then they may not just accept you. They'll come up with a reason not to accept you. Of course, the other big con would be tuition. Costs money. A lot of money. And around these parts, you have everywhere from the hundreds and the thousands something, per month, and depending on the type of school. And I'm sure maybe in your area, it might be in the thousands. I don't know. In bigger cities, it could be really high. If it's a boarding school, for example, then obviously it's going to be really high. I know some private schools don't offer meals. And so you have to bring your meal. They have to wear uniforms. So there's added expense on top of the tuition, which can be really hard on parents. I know in the school where I previously taught, a lot of grandparents were helping with tuition. And, so that says a lot. It's just really hard on parents to have to pay tuition, then the uniform, then, the extra money for lunch and whatever. Anytime there was a field trip, you had to pay money. So that's one of the cons. Now let's switch over to public schools. Public schools, there's a lot of good things I can say about public schools, but let me talk about the negative stuff first. Well, obviously, public schools are busting at the seams. You have stressed out teachers. lack of funding, and sometimes the environment is not conducive to learning. Let's just be real, right? Public schools tend to, have a lot of, limitations. They may not be able to go on those field trips. They may not be able to offer the same types of extracurricular activities that some of the private schools can. They just are limited because of the regulations of the city in which you live. Now, some of the good things about public schools is that they offer AP classes and honors classes, gifted classes if your child's gifted. If your child is an exceptional child, they offer the therapies like the speech therapy, occupational therapy for free. And so because of grants and government money that they get, they're able to do that. If you are an underserved community, you're able to get these things through the public school system. Your child may get free lunch, and in some instances, that might be the only meal that your child might get that day, in some instances. So I think that that's a good thing. Public schools do offer a lot more training, for teachers. And typically they require a little bit more than private schools. Private schools can literally hire someone off the street without a teaching degree and let them teach. Whereas in public schools, there's more criteria that you have to meet in order to be able to work there. So public schools, they get a bad rap, but there are some good things about public schools, right? And so, it's just a matter of what your child needs. Of course, that didn't even cover homeschooling, but private schools might actually be a stepping stone for your child. Maybe your child doesn't need to go to private school for all their 12 years of schooling, or 13 if you count kindergarten. Maybe your child might start in public and might end up in private. So that's how some of my kids had to do it. So I think that there's a lot to consider. Don't close your mind, don't be closed-minded into thinking that one is better than the other. Look at your circumstances, make a checklist of all the things that your child needs, and then go to other parents. Don't just take a tour and talk to the administrators. They're going to paint the prettiest picture of that school. Talk to the parents of kids that actually go there and find out what it's like. Find out the good, the bad, whatever they're willing to share. And if your school offers it, let them go for a day. Let them shadow another student and see what it's like to go there. You never know. Those are my thoughts for today. As always, good luck on your journey, that difficult journey. And I look forward to talking to y'all soon. Bye.